Hello! How's it going, you guys? Okay, so you want some memories from Serenity. I only have like a million, but the craziest part and the thing that people don't really realize is that the show, the project kind of kept going for us. We started traveling the world as a cast doing conventions, and so we've had all of these crazy memories all over the planet, in New Zealand and Australia and Germany and all over the UK. When we were publicizing Serenity, actually, they broke us up into pairs, and I was with Sean Marr, my bestie, and they sent us to Ireland to promote the film. And Sean and I only had, I think, 24 hours or something in Ireland. So we got off our plane, we went straight to a movie theater, we introduced the movie to a bunch of brown coats in the audience, which was amazing. And then we were like, okay, well, we're not gonna go to bed. We only have 24 hours here. So we just like bar hopped in Dublin until we had to get back on our plane the next morning. It was an interesting evening.
So no more running. I aim to misbehave.
Well, no, I moved the thing up there and I went to press mute before I sniffed really hard. Sorry, that was on me.
Always on you. This is how we have to start every goddamn fucking episode. No.
I'm sorry. I had something to say and then it just snuffle came out. You don't care about my allergies or my cold or nothing.
No.
Welcome back, everyone. I'll be nice and say it this time. Start our show.
Right.
Start our show.
Well, like Kevin said, welcome everybody. We are back for Suns and Shadows cast. Our newest episode is Firefly. Nathan Fillion and company. They started this show for Joss Whedon and Tim Minear. It's the first time I've watched it in a while. Kevin, how long has it been for you?
Oh, gosh, maybe 10 years or so. Oh, no, maybe 15 almost. It's been a while. No,
I'd say when I first got the Blu-ray set, whenever it first came out, because I have one of the original Blu-ray sets.
Oh, okay. I want to say my friend let me borrow it around 2007. So it would have been somewhere around there.
Okay. Yeah, I think mine, as I'm looking this up real quick, it'd be 2008 when I watched this. That'd be, 2008. So 15 fucking years it's been since I've watched this show. Wow.
That's how that feels. There was things like we talked about with Serenity that I remembered being a little bit different, but the show I remember pretty much the same.
Yeah, I had the same experience as well.
Yeah, so it's some of it was fantastic, some of it wasn't, but all of it was good. That was the one thing I could have always said about this show. And I was really hesitant to watch it in general. Like my buddy was just super insistent, like I said. So because I don't like sci-fi and I don't necessarily like Westerns all the time, but this Western in space, like really kind of the plot was okay for me, but really what
worked for you is what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was really the cast that really sold it for me. It was something that you see almost in like Red Dead Redemption 2, where they have this outlaw camp and they're all a family, like a little commune.
Right.
And they take care of one another, but away from the government's thumb or rules, stipulations, whatever, taxes. And so it's like you become empathetic to their cause. Or empathetic to the characters, but it wasn't, I think, until this last time watching it where I'm kind of like, the brown coats sound really familiar, and the Alliance sounds really familiar. This is North versus South. Like, it just dawned on me, like, probably when Mal said, "I reckon we'll rise again." I was like, holy shit, they're the Southerners. And so I was really kind of waiting to see how much extra Southern they would go. And of course, yes, slavery is brought up in this, but they look down on it very hard. So, I mean, at least it had that going for it.
Yeah, that's just one of the ways you could look at that. I mean, it is modeled, I would say, after it, but you could look through history and point at same situations, the cycle of time, it just keeps going right back to it over and over again. People who don't remember the past are doomed to repeat it. And even 500 years into the future, they're still going through the same cycle of everything over and over and over again.
Yeah, and they even talk about that a little bit, don't they? Where cycles of war.
A little bit, and I know, like in their opening narration, that they interject like halfway through the season, where like Mal starts being like, "I am the captain of the Serenity," and he's like, and he just describes like the whole scenario. It's like the browncoats, us idiots, fought against the Alliance. Okay, self-deprecating isn't really needed in your freaking narration intro, but that aside, they did establish in that like what the whole concept overall for the show is the Alliance versus the Browncoats and other people caught in the middle or left on the outskirts anyway.
Well, I mean, they didn't go on long enough to have too much filler, and they didn't run the series in order at all. So, I mean, a little bit of exposition was necessary for this show in a way. Books, we talked about it earlier. Books I liked better. Mal's reminded me of something different. Like he ended it with, "You got a job? We can do it. Doesn't matter what it is." And just the way he said it, the beats and what he was saying, all I could hear in the back of my head was, if you could find them and you could afford them,
maybe you can hire the A-Team.
In 1972, a crack commando unit was sentenced in a court. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, so I mean, because I don't give it the justice that it needs. But I mean, it was kind of ripping off A-Team a little bit. I don't care. Like A-Team's one of my favorite shows anyway. So, but it did need it, unless you're watching it in succession or binge watching the DVDs. The way Fox had it, it was necessary.
Yeah, it was necessary because largely they aired like the train job as the very first episode. And I remember watching it when it first aired, and I'm thinking, the show is okay, I guess. I didn't even stick around much longer after a handful of episodes. I watched like that episode. Eventually they got around to airing the pilot. And when I saw the pilot, like, I don't even remember. It just felt like it was too long later. It felt maybe like it was like 2 months. Probably wasn't that long. I didn't look up any dates for research on this because I just want to go off of memory and what we're watching now. I don't want to delve too much into that, but it felt like they waited way too long and there was episodes out of order, so things don't make sense. But just to throw it out there, you don't start with the train job. That is probably one of the weaker episodes in the show to begin with. Why are you starting with
that? There were so many, we'll just call them Easter eggs in that episode.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, watching the show in order, though, is very important. And it actually makes things a lot better to digest. It builds things up just right. And it's a better overall enjoyment.
I think so, too. There's not a whole lot that goes into Succession. There is a couple things. They do have callbacks with villains later on.
Yes, they do.
So, I mean, if that's out of order, you're kind of like, okay. Say like Saffron, for example. If you see Mal out in the desert butt naked because that episode ran before him getting married to her in the first time around, you're going to be completely lost there.
Yeah.
And those callbacks, I don't know if they were necessary or not. Like,
well, those two episodes were there was only like 1 or 2 episodes in between them to begin with. Why would you even, if they're in that kind of a particular order, why would you just take them out of context and flip them around? That makes no sense to me. Somebody over at Fox was definitely screwing around with this.
That's what I understand as well. And I did look it up, and I can't find the exact date, but Serenity, the pilot, was the last episode that aired.
Yes, that's correct. That's why I said I felt like it was 2 months later. I'm probably not far off on that because they did not air all 14 episodes.
No, they didn't do that. They didn't not just air the last two episodes, but they also didn't play them in order until it went to streaming in the UK, I think, or maybe
Sci-Fi
DVD in
Channel.
the UK. Oh, is that what it was?
Yep, it went to Sci-Fi Channel, and then when the streaming services hit, then it got put in a proper order.
Oh, all right.
Good research on that.
Thank you. See, now that I have a desk set up here, I can actually do things.
Uh-oh.
Well,
No more excuses.
right.
That Firefly, overall, the best way to watch this is in the order as intended. This is where I feel like Joss kind of got screwed around a little too much on the show. This Fox is meddling and just overall screwing around. Firefly, for a lot of people, this is the king daddy of canceled TV shows for quite a few people.
Yes, it's a soft spot, tender subject. There were
Even today.
Yeah, there was fucking huge amounts of petitions going around. I want to say there was a comic book that gave them an extra story that Joss wrote. A Serenity, of course, that eventually happened.
Yep.
But even then, it's like it got to a point where you're like, you guys, I appreciate holding the torch for your favorite show. God knows with MST3K, we do the same thing. But it's been so long at this point where you're just kind of like, would it be the same? Because half of the things that they did in that would not fly today, especially looking back in hindsight at Joss Whedon, excuse me.
Well, they'd probably make adjustments. If it was to come back now, hypothetically, as a show again, you almost need to reboot it. But if you're going to do like a true follow-up, like relaunch of the show with this original cast, things have to have evolved over the last 15, 20 years since the show was on TV. You just update it. Yes, you might have to scale back on this, that, or the other, but they'd probably still leave, the Chinese language in there, where they use that as the cursing for the show. So they wouldn't have to use actual swearing on network television, which I initially discovered something like that in the original Battlestar Galactica, which was a wagon train to the stars TV show that had very high Western elements in its science fiction. So I kind of felt like it borrowed a little bit from that just to kind of, really spruce up the story. But that's just something I kind of felt watching it, is like, yeah, while Battlestar was more wagon train to the stars, and I'm talking original Battlestar, not the remake from, the mid 2000s. Which is completely different. They took the Western elements, they made that kind of a show back then, back in the late 70s, early 80s, and then Firefly's doing a new twist on it now, or in the mid 2000s.
Again, my buddy who was really enthusiastic with it, he loved the usage of Mandarin when they would swear, because there are the 7 dirty words that you can't say on TV, and they managed to say them just in a different language. But it got to be a bit too much for me. Like, yes, we know that the alliance was a merger between the US and China, but then at the same time, like, all the independents way out in the outer rings are also just as entwined in the Chinese culture, which is nice, but it kind of goes against the merger, I guess. I don't know.
A lot of those elements are just because it was so ingrained into their new culture based off of that. So it's transcended through everybody to varying degrees of whatever. The only time I didn't really find that all that compelling or interesting is when they swore that River was a witch and they tried to burn her at the stake. And I wrote down, the fuck? They're burning her at the stake? You're 500 years in the future and you're still thinking that somebody's a witch. They flew there in a spaceship, you fucking morons.
Yeah, I had that written down too, in big bold highlighter. Like, how in the future do we still have Christian witchcraft? And the episode was just an allusion to the Salem witch trials, because the guy who was in charge comes to see what's going on and basically saying there's no such thing as a witch. And so, River reads his mind and she goes, "Oh, you're the person in charge. You became the person in charge after you killed the old person because
Right.
he was sick and then he got better. And then this new guy couldn't have that, so he made him get sick the rest of the way."
Yeah. I know your secret. You don't want nobody to tell.
Yeah, and his immediate
Murder
response
at the
is,
stake.
she is with the beast.
And I'm just sitting there like, I don't think this ever bothered me before, but watching it now, it did bother me. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm taking points off of this episode for being stupid like that. I mean, I liked it back then, but suspension of disbelief, I can't do it anymore, apparently, for some things. I mean, there's good parts to that episode, but like that subplot and deal was not really all that cool by me.
No, they had a few plot things that weren't necessary, didn't jive.
Well, I think by the time they got to the end of episode 14, that they had figured out what was working and not working. And if they had had a chance to at least finish out like 8 more episodes, if they were going to do like 22 episodes, I think we could have ended very strongly with a full season without much more goofy filler stuff going on.
Oh, sure. Unfortunately, they probably would have left it with the cheap ass cliffhanger to the next season that would never come.
Well, you want one of those? I got a different sci-fi show for you. It'll make you mad and rage quit.
Rage quit. No,
It's called Space Above and Beyond for anybody out there who's curious what I'm getting at there.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Everybody dead.
Everybody dead. No, I mean, I want to say the way this ended was okay. Like, it actually kind of worked out like you said, didn't give it the chance to get stupid. It was just better. The only thing that I lament about it is you have all these callbacks to characters who weren't bad, but weren't as good as Jubal Early. Like, that was just the most phenomenal character that they had on the show, just about. And you only get to use them once. And that was my big regret from getting cut off at 14.
I think ending the way they did, and that was a excellent episode to kind of cap it off and be like, we're still out here, but we're going to be dealing with a lot of other bullshit now. Like, they're going to be actively pursued by like bounty hunters, mercenaries, not just, hey, let's stay out of the way of the Alliance and any other police figures. Let's just keep doing our thieving and pillaging and plundering, and maybe we'll be okay. No, now they got to worry about everybody else coming after them for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And having Early was awesome. I loved how they played. Every character had a little bit to play in the last episode. Everybody, and like little subtle references and Easter eggs were throughout it. Even Early, after he took out Book, he's like, that man ain't no shepherd. I just love that little, him a shepherd? No, he is not. And it's just a constant reminder of, yeah, Book, you're full of shit, bro.
He's not full of shit. He got ordained on the inside. That's all. He knows how to pump iron.
Well, that's the one thing, I don't want to get too far ahead, but like, that's the one thing where it goes from the show to the movie, and they never even touched upon who the fuck he was. Period. The closest we ever got to any of that was when he got hurt at the beginning of the series. He got shot. They take him to an Alliance base or cruiser, and they're like, we ain't gonna save him. He's like, check my ident card. They check his ident card. They're like, to the emergency room, stat, and patch this dude up.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, what the fuck? And then they never get into it ever again. I mean, as far as the movie goes, the show, they drop hints and tidbits here and there, but I loved who they cast as early. If anybody remembers our Brimstone episodes where we talked to Ethan Reef and Cy Voris, that is Hasdrubal Scaris from the Slayer episode from Brimstone that starred John Glover and Peter Horton. So that was a nice throwback for me. So we have a Fox alumni from another canceled show appearing in another Fox canceled show. But I want to say that of all the episodes, episode 14 is the one that could really tug at your strings, because if you have never seen any of this show before, or even the movie, if you're completely rare and you're like, the fuck, I'm listening to this podcast and they're talking about shit I don't even know about. Hey, watching that last episode, there's something in there that'll make you go, wait, what's going on? And then when you find out what's really going on, you're gonna just die laughing and cheer and root, because how that was constructed. The first time I ever watched this episode, because I remember this, first time I ever saw this episode, I'm like, oh my God, that person's dead, evolved, whatever. And then it's like, oh no, that's even better. And how they got rid of, early at the end, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then he's the last shot of the show as he's like, well,
here I am.
And it's so bittersweet. It's so freaking funny. So I want to give special kudos for whoever wrote, directed, shot, like all of that for all the episodes, but especially the last one, because if that's how you had to end the show, I think it was a nice little chef's kiss to the cast, crew, and everybody. Like, you did good work. You really did.
Yeah, everybody had a moment to shine in that episode, like you said. And Nara, not as much for that one. I want to say the episode before.
Yeah.
But my only issue with Early was his whole constant threatening to rape Kaylee. And I'm like, do we need to take it there? Do we need to take it there again? Okay, we need to stop taking it there. You're into the fucking whole sadism thing.
Well, that was something they brought up every now and then in the show, was like the whole raping thing. I'm like, I don't think we need the constant reminder that is, within the realm of happening in this show.
Well,
but it's also, they hit that with like slavery and everything. So it kind of, they didn't break their own rules. They just kept doing it over and over for everything else too. So
there was a deleted scene that wasn't filmed. It got scratched out really hard out of the script, where Inara was going to have a chemical prophylactic injected into her. So basically, if she was raped, the person would be poisoned. And they were gonna have Inara be gang raped by God knows how many people off screen, as a lot of stuff was. And then you just come back to like dead bodies everywhere. And it's like, do we have to fucking show somebody get raped that many times, or imply that somebody just got raped that many times?
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, and that was all Joss. That was his thing. Like, there's a lot of weird quirks in this. And we talked about it a bit in Serenity, where like you definitely see his fetishes and his kinks in this show very hard. Like child brides. That the whole saffron thing was a bit creepy and very specific. That's kind of what made me kind of raise my eyebrow and go, maybe looking back in hindsight, he wasn't such a nice guy.
Well, she was also written as a character that, just used everything to get at everybody and everything. And you can never trust her.
Yeah.
Constantly marrying like everybody. I like how she got ejected off the ship when he saw her later. And that was hilarious. But I liked how in that second episode with her that they outsmarted her from beginning to end.
Yes. And the only thing I didn't like about that, and I understand you can't do such things, I wish Inara would have shot her in the face. Just shot her in the head. And
she's not a killer, though.
No, she's not, but that's her man.
And yeah, but still.
I don't know. Once was
She has
enough.
never proven herself to be a killer at any point during the show or the movie. So it would have been out of character for her.
Well, she might have whacked a couple guys with the fucking arrow, the Nerf bow that she has in Serenity. But otherwise, yeah, no.
Might as well given her a super soaker.
Yeah. It was cool looking. It really was, though.
I know. We're teasing.
I would have just liked to see her throw a little bit more dominance down for their ownership, for lack of a better term, because Mal really was her man. And there was more there that they could have explored with Mal and Inara. And that's what I had to go back and watch the last 5 minutes of Serenity for today. It was like, wait, did they address any of that in the finale?
Nope.
Nope, not a single word. All right.
Nope, she was probably going to be gone yet again.
Yeah, like they left it very cryptic whether or not she was going to come back or stay.
Well, on my rewatch, I'd kind of forgotten why she left. And then as I was watching the whorehouse episode, I write Best Little Whorehouse in Texas as the name of the episode title. That's not the episode title, but that's what I wrote down because I'm like, okay, I guess we're hitting up an old trope real quick before we get to the end of the show. But I had forgotten largely what happened in that episode. I remember like bits and pieces, like I remember, oh, dude got a girl pregnant at the whorehouse. Oh, it's his kid. Oh, he wants his kid back. And he's a masculine. He's fucking creepy as shit.
Yeah, like he has that.
I remembered that part, but I didn't remember that Mal hooked up with Melinda Clarke. I forgot what her name was. That's why I remember the actress's name, but she was stunning. I like Melinda Clarke, but I forgot that that's the reason why Inara broke down crying and was like, I can't do this. I have feelings for this dude. So we as an audience saw this, but nobody else did, other than Melinda Clarke's character, who was like, you love him and he loves you. And now you just brought me in the middle of your little fucking triangle. she even tried to tell Mal, like, you didn't tell me the whole truth about Inara's feelings for you. And before they could actually have that conversation, where it's clearly he's not picking up the signs, or he is, and he's just completely trying to disregard them. But that's why Inara leaves.
Yeah, like she in those last two episodes, the last one, like they have a conversation about keeping it quiet to the rest of the crew. Like I think maybe especially to Kaylee, because that was like her baby sister. But yeah, they left that very vague, and that was something I would have liked to have seen.
Right.
Because Inara was such a neat character. They did things with Inara that they just kind of left away. Like in the pilot where Book is basically out from the monastery for the first time and is freaked the fuck out by being on this ship full of fucking pirates and stuff. And he goes to confession basically and goes to Inara to confess. And you're like, wow, that's kind of poetic. Who does the priest go to confess to when he needs to get that sin off his chest? And he goes to the sinner. And you're like, wow, that was kind of smart.
Yep.
I took it that way anyway. But then you never got to see her utilized that way again. You're just kind of like, well, lame.
They did set Inara up to be, the source of some sort of legitimacy on the ship. And there were times that they did utilize that, but like towards the end of the show, they stopped using that as a point. And then in the movie, they don't even touch it at all.
Oh, her clients or needing to stop by.
Well, being a companion, a registered companion, like she helped them get out of like numerous situations here and there, like the Janestown episode, for instance. Like she sleeps with the magistrate's kid to pop his cherry and ends up getting the ship unlandlocked because of the way she conducted her business and found out what was going on. None of the rest of them ever knew about that. And so she was on board to bring an air of legitimacy. And, they just stopped. That was her superpower, is she, as a registered companion, there was things that she could do nobody else could. And that doesn't mean just sleeping with her clients. It was she has connections. She could get people out of trouble. She could get people into places you couldn't normally get into. I mean, she was no criminal mastermind, but there was times she was happy to help, and she was freaking smart as hell too, as evidenced by how they got Saffron, because even she was like, everybody else's performances were not as nuanced as I would have liked. I thought they would have tipped you off before we got to this point, but I guess I worried for nothing. But she's like, I never liked you, and this is all part of the plan. And I'm like, man, girl's smart. They played her smart all the time, except for when she'd have her moments of weakness with Mal, of course. And just, she was a great character that you could have done more with, and they just never did.
Yeah. And that I think is partially because of course they got canceled long before they should have.
Right.
And two, I don't know what they wanted to do with that. Like, the studio obviously wanted some sort of romance, because that's always got to be in a show.
Oh, will they, won't they?
Yeah, like they didn't want Zoe to be married because that's going to conflict between her and Mal. And Joss had to explain, well, like, what if they weren't romantically involved together?
Oh, that was a funny fucking episode too.
Yeah, and I don't know if he wrote that as a response.
I would. You just gave me a story point. I feel like I'm
right?
putting that in the show. And also in, like, with Early, where he's talking about this ship, and he's like, I like this ship. It's such wide open spaces. And I'm like, somebody had to have made a joke. Somebody had to have complained about, why does this ship look like this? This looks stupid. And so, hey, you just gave me something to put in the script.
Kinda. I mean, I don't think anybody watching it at home at the time really complained at all. I think this was just typical old Fox being Fox and throwing Joss Whedon into the mix with that. So, I mean, it was probably bad on both ends. And I feel bad for the performers and for the audience, because again, this was not something that people were bored of watching or not wanting to see. Most people were pretty down with this, and that's because of its characters.
Oh, well, yeah, no. The characters sold this show. The main storylines, no, you didn't tune in for the storylines. Yes, some of them were good. Some of them really were not much of anything. They didn't go anywhere. The blue hand guys, we saw them for what, 2 episodes, and then never again. Ever again. The Blue Sun group.
So they crossed the agents with Early, and they came out with the operative for Serenity. I want to say that's where he came from, because he was very similar to Jubal. Like his dialogue was much better than anyone else's, just like Jubal's was. So I think that's probably where that came from. And the agents, I wish they would have kept that, because God, they killed their own. Like, oh yeah, they find out, oh, you talked to them.
Or
did any of your men talk to them too? Okay,
you're dead.
Yeah, and they had no budget for fucking tools, so it's basically they got 2 straws, plugged it into a piece of plastic, and held it a certain way, and had a Foley effect that made it basically blow up somebody's head.
If you don't know any better, you think it's something out of the Men in Black movie.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly.
Like, oh, you're going to wipe a memory. No, I'm going to make you bleed out of every orifice on your body.
Yeah, like I expected, like maybe from the ears, but not the eyes and the nose and the mouth.
Yeah, like every little facet. That was some gruesomeness to it. So good style points, I'll give them on that. But yeah, the weapon of choice was a little, what are you doing? But there's elements throughout the show that they just don't carry forward like much. I mean, who knows? They might have come back in like the next episode and probably the season finale if it had made it that far.
Likely as such. I mean, I think everything with that first season, maybe even the second season, probably would have geared up to where Serenity was going to go anyway with the creation of the Reavers. But that in itself kind of had a loophole for me in general. Like, they talk about the Reavers like they're legendary.
I know that feels like where the movie retconned Reavers a little bit for me. That didn't
Yeah.
in hindsight, that does not exactly float well with me.
No, that was a bit contradictory, if anything.
Right.
Uh, and then it made it seem like River was fresh out of there or not there very long because the class that River was in, like everybody was dead in Serenity because of the air, but not her, not Simon who went to the planet to get her, or they just a big loophole with that.
You know, there was things that just felt like they didn't match up with what the show had already established or was working to establish. Like it provided different circumstances. It almost felt like at times like River, yeah, I had to spend all my money to, break you out of that place. And so you were there before then when you helped her escape. But if that's the case, you've already been to this planet before. How is this planet not familiar to you?
Right. And it left questions we like we said the other day, where they are showing the map. It's like, here's Miranda, here's us, and right in between is this big strip of like space that's just space junk and trash that Reavers have left there because nobody goes there anymore because Reavers just go back and forth looking for people. So nobody
Right.
goes there. And you're like, well, if nobody goes there anymore, why are they still going back and forth?
Right.
And then I'm sitting there wondering to myself, why with this fucking verdant planet right there, are they not going to fucking like eat everything, whatever? Oh, okay, that's where they come from. But they still don't eat everything on the fucking planet. Like,
Right.
they get on spaceships and fuck up their faces and go off to
And still know
pillage.
how to fly a spaceship and still know how to like have some sort of organization skills to where they all work together to kill other people. Okay, so they still have a high intelligence factor going on. I kind of liked how the show left it ambiguous. I don't like that Serenity tried to answer these questions and it felt shallow and forced.
It was. But the one thing that Serenity did was basically take just a smidgen of the racism off of the Reavers. Basically, the Reavers in the pilot episode, the way that they are describing them and the way that they're showing everyone's fear, whether it be a good guy, bad guy, or whatever, everyone is afraid of Reavers. And nobody has sides necessarily when the Reavers are coming. Just everyone books the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
He was basically writing them as indigenous people or native people. And at first, it's like you want to be like, oh man, they're talking about Indians. But no, as they keep going, they start getting into like African tribal type things that you hear or see on Heart of Darkness or Apocalypse Now. And so I mean they saved it from going to US indigenous people, but once they got to Serenity, they still kept it to like Native Americans being described in every shitty old Western movie. So that part was like really unnecessary to hear in the TV show, and it felt a little bit fixed in Serenity, but just barely. Just barely.
Okay.
I don't know. It was very much to me like the way he looks for his critique on indigenous cultures.
I see it like he had to come up with some sort of force that's beyond the natural scope. And so he just went and created a different force of that nature and came up with the Reavers idea, which I just liked how it was so epic and legendary, how everybody, like you had mentioned, everybody is so scared of them. I would have preferred it like if there was still like no true identity to them. They didn't have to be an alien or nothing. Clearly, they were humans that went off the rails. Could have just left it simple as that. Just people on the edge of space just lose their mind. They just lose their shit, and you don't know what happened, but they're nuts. And nobody wants to deal with them. No alliance, no browncoats, nobody, no nothing. The second you start giving them an identity, it's like, is that going to age well? Well, if you're not thinking about whether it ages well at that time or not, then it probably will never age well. So I can definitely understand your point, but I did like how the show portrayed them early on as, oh, we don't fuck with those. Nobody fucks with those. We're out of here. And even when, in the early episode, when they found the one survivor and the Alliance shows up and they get him off the ship and they're like, guys, Reavers attack this ship. Like, you don't understand. And then they start seeing like the survivor on the Alliance ship starts going ballistic and killing people. And they Mel ends up getting them to, you come on board. I helped you get the fucker. I actually saved your life. Now please let us go.
Shit though. That episode was gross.
Yeah, when this show brought the gnarly little horror aspects, it did pretty good, I thought.
It did. The show is lighthearted and fun because really the crew of Serenity is family. Like, Serenity itself is a home.
Yeah.
But they're all criminals is really the way you have to remember it for the most part, especially, it's not specifically Mal, but they're so endearing at the same time. But like when Mal goes to kill people, specifically, God, was he an agent? When they were trying to get away from the Reavers, they were like hauling ass, and there was a guy trying to get onto the speeder with them.
Oh yeah, and Serenity.
Yeah, was it? Yes, and they had basically like a whole bunch of Reavers had him, and Mal shoots him in the heart, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, he showed pity, like he pity killed him before the guy got like face raped and eaten. Like,
they killed him twice by doing that.
Oh, did
first he kicked him off the thing, knowing he was going to be dead by the Reavers, and then the Reavers started attacking him, and so he actually shoots him and legitimately kills him. It's like, dude, you just sentenced that guy to death like twice. Once by kicking him off and not saving his life, and then by shooting him in the heart so he wouldn't have to suffer a death at the hands of the Reavers. So it's like, wait, did you really do him a favor and really save him, or did you just straight up be like, fuck, I that guy's gonna die, I might as well let him die a human.
Die a human. and not with the skull that's now for a decorative birdhouse and skullfuckery.
Oh, I know, right? He's going to adorn the front of somebody's spaceship now.
Yeah, I'm gonna put your skull on the front of the hood.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Reavers were fun. They were mentioned just little enough, like we said, that made it the legendary scope of it. And the bad guys that they had otherwise was, how would I describe it? Okay, so you remember when we were talking about the Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., and we talked about how the filler was easy to accept because they were just one of his adventures. Exactly. Firefly really, really benefits from that. Like, it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of filler because they're always off on some different heist. Right. Like A-Team. Like, there was no long-term plot outside of the fact that the Alliance is after the Tam family.
Right.
And otherwise, that was it. They were just pirates going out and having like fucking crazy ass adventures, and it worked out okay. It didn't need like hardcore, I don't want to say concepts, just like a long, strung out story.
Oh, convoluted storytelling, yeah. Something like that's very complicated, like let's say like a Deep Space Nine or
yes,
Babylon 5, where clearly there's this big epic sweeping operatic space opera story arc. No, sometimes you just don't need that. I mean, there's a some more modern shows. One of them's called Killjoys, I believe, on Sci-Fi Channel. I didn't really get into that one a whole lot, but it's got similar concepts going on. That one was okay. It actually ran 5 seasons, but I don't think that one was nearly executed it as well. And at times I found it boring. There was one back in the day called what was it called? Star Hunter, Space Hunter, something like that. That one was okay. But, when you introduce like big concepts like that, you really don't, not every show needs to be like that. Sometimes it's nice to have a variety. Hence why things like The Orville is funny as hell the first couple of seasons. It's something completely different that hasn't been done since like the 60s. It was more in tune with the original show of Star Trek. You can have a variety. You don't have to have the big complex stories. There was enough story going on to grab you, but like we keep saying, the story is more about the characters. And the way it works out is best because all the actors had excellent chemistry together. You believed it, and within a couple of episodes, you felt like you were part of the crew. If you didn't feel it right away, you felt it within a couple of episodes because that's how long it took for some people to really grab onto the show. Is first episode, that's pretty good, but 2 episodes later, this show is awesome.
Yes, like it's even if you're watching it in order or out of order, like there's every episode almost has a moment where you're like, that was rad as fuck. And it doesn't always come from Mal. Sometimes it can come from Wash. Sometimes it actually, yeah. Like Jane. That fucking
I love Jane.
That M4 that he has that he calls Vera cracks me up.
Come on, Vera. He's gonna dress you up, take you out somewhere nice.
Try to trade Mal his favorite gun for the child bride, and it's like, ew.
He's like, but if you ain't gonna touch her, I'm overpaying. She was not a child bride. She was just she was a young adult, actually.
Yeah.
Because they did not say that she was like some teenager. She was not a teenager.
No. But yeah, she's been like, how many guys did they pass over that she'd been married to? Like 4 or 5 people.
4 or 5 people. But although the joke from Mal was like, you've been married to half the galaxy by now.
I love when he asks her name. And people are gonna shit right now, but I apologize. He asks her name, and as she opens her mouth, he punches her square in the mouth and knocks her the fuck out. And he goes, yeah, you would have just been lying anyway.
Yep.
I started crying because I was laughing so hard.
Yeah, there's some good humor in this show.
Yeah, I mean, it was shit like things that Mal does like that is where you have to remember, okay, he's a pirate. He's a fucking scoundrel and not a good person per se.
Well, most of them, even like Jane, like I keep going back to Jane. It's like, shit, in the whorehouse episode, he's got a sweet little girl on the side. And he's like explaining to her, when I run out of ammo in one gun, you give me the next gun. And he gave me the next gun. We keep on going. You understand? And she's like, mm-hmm. And he's like, okay, now let's get to doing our other job here.
I
I don't know. I found him to be one of the more interesting characters. So I really like how every character was different. So it wasn't like, oh, carbon copy this, carbon copy that. Like even Walsh and his lady. I mean, that was a nice little opposite relationship going on. I found that to be him and Zoe were great as a couple.
The whole, if you want to cook dinner for your man, I've left all the tools out. The look on Gina Torres's face.
She's like, you want me to kill you?
And then she goes to fucking try to seduce Wash, and he's like, gosh, if I wasn't married to a woman that can kill me with her pinky finger, that might sound interesting.
Well, he also was saying like, "I love my wife. I'm sorry." No.
Yeah, like and Zoe had no quarrels, like no worry whatsoever that Wash might have been
Because he got
seduced.
knocked out. Yeah.
Yeah, she's like, that's my boy or that's my man. Got kicked in the fucking head.
She's like, he didn't succumb to her wiles. And then, oh my God, Mel and Anara. And he's like, I knew you kissed her.
Oh yeah. Oh fucking
And she's
Inara.
got this look on her face like, you fucking moron.
I love how Inara was trying to hide from everyone else that she kissed Mal.
Yeah, and that's how she got knocked out. Oh, I just hit my head. I just hit my head.
I fell. That's when I fell. Yes.
I'm fine. I just hit my head. Like, you should get checked out for concussion at least, maybe.
Yeah, right. Oh God. Oh shit.
Did you
Was
have a
it
favorite character, by the way?
favorite character?
Or did you just like everybody?
I like everybody. It's really hard
Yeah.
for me to choose a favorite. Like again, Nathan Fillion between this and Slither is like my favorite badass ever, just about.
Yeah.
Fucking Alan is amazing.
He's in God mode in this show.
Yes, between this and now Harley Quinn, he is just the shiznit. And if you haven't seen Resident Alien, watch that. He's amazing.
That's one I still need to see. But it's been apparently canceled, so it is going to be added to the docket at some point in the near future.
It was
Alan, he gets these shows that are so awesome and they all end up getting knocked.
well, it's because it was on Peacock, I think.
Sci-Fi
wasn't
Channel.
it? That's right. I only got to see it once it came to Peacock. That's that's what it was.
Actually, it's called Sci-Fi, but I will always call it Sci-Fi Channel.
I wouldn't say that I have a favorite character. I have a favorite relationship, and that's Mal and River. And we talked about it Sunday on Zero Point, where that ending wasn't necessarily the best that it could be, and it's still not. But what we do see consistently throughout Firefly is that the only person that truly believes in River is Mal. Like, even Simon has his moments of doubting her, and Mal doesn't doubt her because Mal understands what she is. She's a wild card, and he recognizes that, he respects that, and doesn't expect anything else beyond that. So there's not a whole lot that's really surprising to him because he expects that surprise all the time, just about.
Yeah.
He was the first person to suggest she's a psychic. She's not just a weapon.
Or a reader.
Yeah, something to that effect. And everyone was like, no. And he's the one.
The joke was, that sounds like science fiction. And the next thing somebody said was, you're on a spaceship.
Yeah, you're living.
And that just goes back to an earlier comment where I'm like, they're still on about witches 500 years into the future. They got spaceships, for fuck's sake. Is that witchcraft too? Anyway.
Speaking of which, the episode that we were talking about where Inara has to sleep with the magistrate's son.
To make him a man.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there writing in my notes, that's how dads look at shit like that. Like, well, maybe he just needs to get laid. But once he does, like you said, and he just completely gets his fucking nutsack on to cross his dad. Like, you see Inara behind him, almost like he's fucking Don Corleone, and he's got his legs spread wide the fuck open so everyone can smell his balls.
That wasn't Inara behind him. That was his dad behind him.
Was it his dad?
It was his dad, because that's when he said, like, you wanted me to become a man.
Oh, that's right. But he's
Inara was already on the spaceship leaving.
Spreading his legs, and it's like, we get it. Okay, good for you.
I did notice that too. It felt like, yeah. Hey, he's like, you're the one who wanted to make me a man, Dad. I guess I am. And it was like, man, he's sitting very proud.
Smell. But was
Let
that
it
the
all
same?
hang out, bro?
Was that the episode where Mal has to Duel?
No,
No, you're right. Okay,
was
no, that...
the Man They Call Jane episode. Janestown, baby. The
Oh,
hero
okay.
of Canton, the man they call Jane.
Yeah, some of the episode where they had the duel, that was a little hard to watch because one, it was talking about the slave owners for one thing, and two, the other females on that planet make fun of Kaylee so bad that like you just want to fucking go in there and like slap each one of them for fucking treating her like shit. Like she's
Well,
wearing this dress that she thinks is really pretty, and this is her time to go out and feel like a lady. And all these other ladies are telling her, you look like you're wearing a dress that someone bought for you, not a dress that a slave made for you. Golly, you just wanted to have something bad happen to one of those chicks.
well, one of them got told off by one of the older gentlemen.
Yes, and
Like
that
it's
was
so it takes 15 people to get you into that dress, but apparently it only takes one handsome dude to get you out of it. And boy, she was like, "Oh, fuck this," and she walked away. And then at least Kaylee got to hang out with a bunch of guys talking about spaceships. She got asked to dance and or was about to get asked to dance, and one of the other guys was like, "Nope, we're talking here."
Yeah, yeah.
So she had a good time.
Eventually, but when
Yeah.
they started ragging on her and shit, I was getting a little irritated because a little emotional investment in the character.
You might want to talk to your seamstress. That's a little out of style. Looks like something bought in a store. I want to be like, bitch, what?
Do you want to know how I got these scars? Funny story.
I know how to fix an engine, which means I know how to knock you out.
Oh shit! Blow you out the fucking airlock, shit like that.
There was some pretty good dialogue, though, I'll say. So I will give credit to good writing. Like everybody had some good dialogue going on.
Most people did, and it was hit and miss. Like some of it was really good, other parts, like again, were wide open for riffing. Oh, how was your, gynecological fucking exam? Oh, same as last year. Herpes. same as last year. Same shit never goes away.
Space herpes this time.
Oh, we need to watch that soon. I haven't watched that since I was a kid.
Trouble with tribbles.
Space herpes. But anyway, one of the big reasons that I wanted to bring up that episode, because that had probably my favorite cameo, and that was Robert Durant. I can't think of his name, but God bless him. The guy that plays Durant in Darkman.
Oh, Larry Drake.
Yes, was so fucking like irritated at this little pest that Mal has to fight, that like he was like willing to go in and fight as the second person should Mal die.
Yeah.
So I think that was probably my favorite cameo. I think, yes. Yeah, the other cameo that was worth mentioning was Zac Efron was young Simon.
Yes.
And you're like, well, he might go somewhere in the future. I don't know.
Well, that's what I was actually going to point out, because I'm like, boy, does he look familiar. And then when the credits roll, I'm like, look at young Zac Efron. Like, I'm bringing that up, and you just did it for me. But like, that was fantastic. But Larry Drake, one of my favorite cameos too. I know I'd seen the actor who had played Niska before, but I never did look up like what else he's been in. But I feel like I've seen him before.
That
too.
is, yes, Michael Fairman.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
We're looking at, Henry Walker in Dead Silence, Cagney and Lacey, 13 Days, Mulholland Drive.
Okay. It's probably Mulholland Drive for me on that list, and Dead Silence.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like for me. And then Bones, Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, Sons of Anarchy. Yeah, I probably recognize him from that too.
Yeah.
I watched most of that show.
But I've watched Dead Silence so many goddamn times, it's probably not normal.
It's got a brand new 4K release from Scream Factory.
Really? I do enjoy
I'd wait
that.
for a price drop, though.
No, fair enough. Fair enough.
That's why you want to spend like $30.
Speaking of which, you know how I fucking ordered RoboCop the series last week when just basically the moment we decided to review it.
Yeah.
Go out and I bought the DVDs. They're streaming. The TV show's streaming on every streaming platform right now, but not the movies. Like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Well, I think the RoboCop remake is on Netflix.
Yes, the remake is the only one of the movies I think that's streaming for free. And then the series is streaming for free on Hulu and Peacock, I think.
Okay.
Not sure about Prime. But I was really kicking myself like, fuck, I really kind of jumped the gun on that one. But I thought it was, I'm still thinking it's going to be like Tremors, where it's like, I know deep down I'm going to like it one way or the other.
I like it. It's been a while since I've seen it, but there's something in that show that I haven't told you about that I hope you get a kick out of.
In RoboCop?
The show, yep. There's as a hint, there's a WWF wrestler in there.
Is it Sting? Is it Sting?
Dude, WCW.
Oh, sorry.
I know he did his thing at WrestleMania with Triple H, but I don't count that. It's a certain Scotsman from when we were growing up.
No. Hot Rod?
Hot Rod's in it, yep.
Very groovy. Bless his soul.
I like it.
Oh, shit. But getting back on track before we 0 point ourselves again.
0 points for you, so.
One of the things that Mal, the thing that makes Mal call Inara whore, aside from just getting that jab because he can, was because she was pro alliance. Like it was more beneficial for her to be pro alliance, and she could only be registered if she was pro alliance. And the other women that weren't registered or don't get registered.
Well, she called them straight up whores, yeah.
Yeah, like it was the ladies on the planet. Well, no, they all are whores. It's like, well, we're getting into semantics here.
Because when they have their own division within their own ranks of a profession, something's a little deeper than what's going on. Like, damn, what's up with all y'all?
Yeah.
Can't y'all just like get along? Yeah, we all just get along.
Always be fighting. But I've got it written down. Inara blacklists Atherton from Ho registry. I
forgot the reason why, though. Is it because he threatened her?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to say he was threatening. He was. Oh, what was he doing? He was the one trying to kill Mal half the time.
Well, he was the client in that Shindig episode.
Yeah.
And he's the one who kept grabbing at her and treating her like a piece of property. And she's like, half the time, she's just like, not sure she's into this anymore. It might have been the last time she was going to hook up with that dude anyway.
Yeah, and he makes some comment about she's never going to work again. And she's like, actually.
You just earned yourself a black mark, bitch.
Yeah, and then you find out like those kind of people that can't get with a companion are like the worst of the worst kind of guys.
Yeah.
Like you're never going to get a companion. You could only get what they call, quote unquote, only get a normal girl.
Yep, you got to get it for free now, bro.
And you're like, wow, like that's not fucking like pushing that fucking image crisis that we have on ladies anymore. Wow, like you have to be this glitzed out whore in order to be a lady in the future.
Well, as we found out, there's man whores too.
Man whores. I like the episode where she has the female client and like Jane's head keeps popping around out of every corner.
And he keeps having to run back to his bunk. It's like, I understand exactly what he's thinking about. I think most of us did. It's like, because his mouth opens just enough, and it's like he's panting while he's eating an apple. He's like, I'm gonna go back to my bunk. Yeah, huh. And then he says it again, and it's like, we know. You're polishing your barrel.
I gotta go again.
I love how Anara gives him a look when she finally says goodbye to her, and she turns and sees him, and she's just like, "You're disgusting, fuck." With that one glance, it's like that's what she's saying. Like, you're disgusting.
He is. God bless Adam Baldwin. Truly, like,
Oh my god, I love Adam Baldwin. Loved him in Stargate SG-1 when he was in it too. And yes, he is in that show.
he is my favorite Baldwin, and my wife
He's my
loves
favorite
when I-
Baldwin too.
My
And
wife
hey,
always
I
says,
can separate artists from things. That's why we're talking Firefly, but I still like The Shadow, the movie with Alec. I know Alec, blah blah blah, but I can separate artists from their projects for the most part. But Adam Baldwin, still my favorite Baldwin, period, even before and after all that stuff.
goddamn Skippy. Like, I think I probably first saw him in either Full Metal Jacket or Predator 2. Most likely Full Metal Jacket.
Predator 2 for me, actually.
Oh shit, I'm fucked up. It really was goddamn Full Metal Jacket. Yeah, Animal Mother was fucking the shiznit when I was a kid.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, I really dug him in Predator 2, of course. And he just, every role that he's in is like, I don't want to say similar, but he's got this gravitas towards him where it's like, you don't fuck with him. He's a bad person. And Jane truly is that. He is a bad person that will kill and rob you, but he's also a very sweet man at the same time, like almost a very innocent man.
He's a human being.
Yeah, like
he
his
has
mom-
a heart and
Yeah.
there's times when you see it, like he obviously loves his mom or he wouldn't have put that stupid hat on. And
Yeah.
he cared about that town, even though he knew like I didn't actually do anything to save these people. But at the same time, he's like, you people got to live on your own. You can't use me as your icon. I didn't save you. I didn't do any of that. And he could have milked it. He could have been a typical criminal and just been like, yeah, fuck this, fuck that. But there was times like, yeah, he made some boneheaded decisions when he tried to sell out River and Simon. And they found, I love how at the end, Mal was like, I know what you fucking did. And it took an episode or two for River and Simon to be like, why is he acting like this? And then River's like, oh, he just doesn't want us to find out what happened on blah, blah, blah. And Simon's just like, what are you? Oh, I think I understand now.
At least he had him in a good position to make his point that he knew.
Right.
And that should he ever need assistance getting stitched up or anything, there may or may not be a doctor on the ship. And that was hard because Jane is the mercenary, but
he's the muscle.
Yeah, prior to that, he's the one person that'll pipe up to Mal, but he backs down when necessary.
Yeah, there's times he'll push it up until it's like, okay, well, clearly this isn't getting anywhere, or Mal listens to him.
Yeah.
I was kind of waiting for if we were going to get more episodes. I was honestly wondering if we were going to get an episode where he's got such a good goddamn point that Mal's like, you know what, we're going to go with his idea. I almost would guarantee at some point that would happen just as a homage to the audience of like, I know we've had you put up with this butting heads for episodes and everything so far. We're going to give you one where he's got such a good point that they have to go with like his plan and his way to do something. And it's going to be awesome. Like there's going to be a payoff. Almost felt like that was kind of brewing in the background. I don't know for sure, but this is just a vibe I was getting as we were watching Jane's arc go on.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen them do more with him. Jane never had that moment where he's part of the family. I mean, yes, there's the ballad of the man they call Jane, but even then, that wasn't every character had an episode that really showed who they are in the family. And really, Jane was the exact opposite for me. When he sold out the Tams and Mal had to put him in the airlock and shit, that was completely contradictory. And it left me thinking, okay, well, he's an untrustworthy character. Like, anytime they're going to go on a job, you have to worry about whether or not the other person's going to fucking offer him twice the amount.
Well, that's how they got him on board. So
Yeah.
Mal should have actually known a little bit better about what he was bringing on board. He just used that in a situation to get out of a situation. And then, dude, you use that to get him on your ship. Why are you that surprised? That's probably why he knew something, that Jane did something. Like, yeah, I kind of had a feeling something's going on here with money and you, because I loved how they got him on board the ship. I love that episode.
It was funny.
I can get my own room. Well, what? You share a room? But that one over there. He's like, and it won't be no measly 7%. And then he shoots the boss in the leg, and he's like, shut up, I'm talking here.
Speaking of shooting in the leg, that was Book's other moment where he's got the machine gun and like plugging all these fucking dudes in the legs. Like, well, I can't kill them, but I will make you quite uncomfortable.
Well, he had the line where somebody asked him, like, preacher, you're gonna be okay with killing? And he's like, I don't know about killing, but the Bible's a little fuzzy about kneecaps. I forgot about that line and I just started laughing. I'm like, there's another tip to what he did before. I think he was some high level alliance captain or something, and maybe some black ops, I'm wondering.
Yeah, something to that effect, because he's Book is the man. He was hauling out some fucking whoop ass, handing people fucking guns to go out.
He had good shooting aim too. It's not like, oh, he's just some random luck like River is. She wasn't trained. She just, you hand her a gun, she knows immediately what to do with it. The rest of us, we got to spend time training to become good shots, and he was too good of a shot. I'm like, there's more. Yeah, he was a pro at some point.
Yes.
I almost wonder if he was more of like an instructor too. That could have been that too.
Ooh, like a drill instructor or some shit.
That would have been cool, like an R. Lee Emery.
Yeah.
But he got, when he got done with his tour, he probably is like, I want to be a shepherd now, but I will always have my credentials on me in case something happens.
Yeah. Or like Casey Ryback, he got put down into the priest position, just a lowly little priest.
Yeah. The only thing with Book that I really didn't, I don't think I've ever understood, but it's just the way my mind works, is the second they figured out there's more to this guy, how did he have an ID to get looked at a Alliance hospital, is I would have put him in the similar situation with Jane in between an airlock and the ship and been like, I need to know exactly who the fuck you are or who the fuck you used to be right now, because if you're going to compromise us in any regard because of whatever that was, I need to know right now. We don't have to tell the rest of the crew, but you need to at least tell me. So I think Mal should have put him in the same position, not under the same reasons, but for the sheer fact of, motherfucker, you better tell me what the hell's going on right now, because that was big.
Yes, the whole flashing his ID card, it was very suspicious, and they had charming little moments of, well, maybe I'll tell you who I am later.
There was never a later.
Yeah, there was never the later until, like you said, when we see him in Serenity, which is only for like 3 whole minutes that he has airtime.
Yep.
Where they started him out with just being fresh out of the seminary, not out of the seminary, but just having left his mission, to now being this badass motherfucker that's got more street smarts than Mal.
Yep.
And he treats Mal like Mal is a troubled son. Like he doesn't want him to believe in God. He just wants him to believe in something, even if it's just his crew. So, I mean, he has charming moments, but it's very frustrating after a time where you're like, when were we going to see what you could have done with him? When were you going to give him more to his character? And it was very rare that you would see times that talked anything about his past, whether it be where where he hands him the ID or handing out the guns, showing how fucking easy he's at pumping iron and shit, to when he's got his hair undone and he says, my order has to, it's got to be pulled back. And that was so fucking funny to me. Like, it was funny the first time I saw it in 2007 or 8, but now that I have kids that are autistic, it's fucking hysterical to me.
Well, and River was scared shitless from it.
Yes, because that would be so my kids, except for Zoe. Like Hunter and Harley would be freaked the fuck out by hair that's suddenly like huge like that.
So if you suddenly got a fro, they'd go screaming, and you'd say, "I'll put it away." Then one of them would scream, "But I know it's still there."
My kids freak out when I shave my beard. Like, who's this guy? Well, my wife does too. But I mean, Summer portrayed River as someone that would be on the spectrum almost. Like she wasn't, I don't, whether or not she did it intentionally or not, she comes off as someone that is autistic, someone that has social disabilities, but she doesn't do it in a way that's offensive or hard to watch. It's actually very good. And so when she has that fucking like her eyes light up when she sees Book's hair and like turns around screaming and runs. I almost peed laughing. It's like that's so like accurate. Like Summer must have known somebody that's on the spectrum. I don't know, but it was really, really goddamn funny.
Yeah, her portrayal is that's one to look for. Is like that was some next level acting for her.
Yes. And then we saw it again just a year later or so in Terminator, which we talked about. That's where we really get to see her shine. So if people are listening at home, if you've not seen Terminator, but you like watching River just kill people like in Serenity, very much we cannot recommend it enough watching how many people she kills in Terminator.
Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, the TV show.
Sorry. She is beautiful in her choreography and the way she just turns around dancing. Well, because she does have dance scenes in that, but it's martial arts mixed with dancing, and it's a very beautiful scene that she could put together.
And she wrecks fools in that show.
Yes. This is cool. That's great.
Yeah, it's a great 1-2 punch. So if you're a fan of Summer Glau, couldn't recommend it more.
Yeah. And that I think looking back, watching Serenity again, I'm glad we had that experience to where we got to see that kind of fun, but cranked up to 11 a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if we would have gone back and watched this again, I think there would have been some disappointment. I don't know. Well, I guess maybe there was a little bit of disappointment this time around, but only because the scene of her fighting the Reavers was so short. She needs more because she could do more. But again, I don't know if that's timing with TV or if that's just the way that Joss treats his actors. I don't know.
Yeah. Do we want to roll on into some social media?
Oh, we have social. We have social out the wazoo. We went to a lot of places because we were doing Firefly today. We went to the Misties and More site because pretty much everyone that loves Mystery Science Theater loves all sorts of sci-fi. And if you love sci-fi, chances are Serenity and Firefly is up there with you. We also did the Mads Are Back Facebook group for the same reason, as well as the Mads Are Back Discord. So I didn't tally who had the most just because the social came from everywhere today.
Nobody
so if
wins.
we don't get to everyone, yeah, there was a lot from everywhere, including Twitter this time. So the first one started off with Penny Winchester. Penny said, I wanted to like the TV show, but feel the episodes were extremely hit or miss for me. I didn't miss it when it was canceled and rarely go back to watch it. Although I really did like the movie.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I think we're going to see this a couple times as a trend with social, because there were people that I think that saw Serenity before they even saw Firefly.
It makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not sure how people really enjoyed that. To me, it seems like walking into something in the middle.
I don't know. That's also why they made the movie the way they did, is they tried to bring it to a wider audience. So a lot of people who hadn't heard of Firefly could go into Serenity and get everything explained to them then. Having required viewing going into a movie or TV show is not always the best thing to do. So, I could see how some people end up liking the movie more than the show, and that's totally cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree, though. I agree. Let's see here. Well, I would have not canceled it personally. I'll get that off my chest. I
would
liked
have
it.
shopped it to another network.
That
Like
would have been.
if you didn't believe in it, at least let them shop it to another network.
I think it would have been better on a cable network. I think probably would have had a bigger budget, less episodes, but it would have had a more concise story like they could have had. Going to NBC, I think would have just had the same problem. ABC, similar problem. If it's not funny or whatever else, it would have been gone. Fox, I don't get it. I just don't get it. Other than the fact that Joss Whedon's hard to work with and people at Fox are hard to work for. So,
well, and WB passed on it, if I remember right.
Oh, did they? Did they?
Well, yeah, that's ultimately, I think, why he went to Fox to do this show.
Okay. And next, we've got number one Godzilla fan who says, I remember on one of Kevin Smith's podcasts, the real one, they had the question of who would be your personal all-media Starfleet crew. And when I thought about it, I listed Kaylee as my chief engineer. And I was like, oh my God, I want Joel State to enlist in Starfleet so bad. I'd rock that. I've not been a big fan of the newer Star Treks, but I really haven't let myself get too far into the newer Star Treks.
Well, if you like her doing that, you might not have seen Stargate Atlantis. Might want to check that show out. Later seasons, she is an important character.
Really?
Yep. She's in Stargate Atlantis.
Huh. That's friggin' awesome.
Geek alert.
Geek alert. I'm still showing my colors that I haven't watched Stargate. I'm holding out as long as I can.
Yeah, we might do something fun for that. We'll see.
Oh, we will. And then Rex Thrillhouse says, the overstuffed pilot is bogged down with way too much exposition, and Fox smartly ran the train job first. That might be the last. That might be the last smart decision that Fox Network ever made. Okay, was the train job that's the one where they've got like 30 Alliance officers on the train, and then behind that trailer or behind that car, what were they stealing? Was that the medicine? I want to say that's what it was, and they didn't get it for Niska. That I forgot to mention before. All those troopers, if their uniforms looked familiar, it's because they were all wearing the same uniforms, the hand-me-downs from Starship Troopers.
Yeah, I did notice that,
yeah. Those were Rico's Roughnecks.
Yeah, Starship Troopers, baby.
But no, it was the one with Patience. That was the one that I think that they probably should have ran first. Well, no, Serenity is really what should have ran first. But Patience, when he didn't kill her, but basically drops the horse so the horse lands on her.
Oh yeah.
That was kind of a defining moment of what the show kind of could be and what it would be. And so I think that would have been a good shot for them, no pun intended, to start with. But again, ultimately, the pilot is what should have been the start for me.
As intended. You could say what you want about exposition. It's still important to lay that groundwork for everybody. Train job, I don't think was the best choice, but that's just a personal opinion. It's not a fact.
Yeah. The big moral for me that came out of Train Job is Mal saying, we don't want to know what we're stealing. We're just going to steal it and bring it to you. That's the way this business works.
Yep.
Because you have to notice when they find out what it is, then they don't want to steal it. They want to give it away to people that actually need it.
Yeah.
And they didn't focus on that as much as they probably should have. All right. And then we've got Jen Peters. Jen says, I've been deciding on if I should let my foundling watch it, given Joss is pretty much canceled at this point. And that's true. He hasn't really done much since 2017.
Correct.
He pretty much watches everything we do, so we could be cool to share it with him. He loves the new Quantum Leap and the Star Trek shows, as well as the new MST3K, which I think Jewel is also on the new Quantum Leap, isn't she?
I don't know. I haven't really watched much of that. I watched part of the first episode, and I I tuned out. I can't do that, Joe.
Fair enough. Again, until we get Sam, I don't care. Because we're old and curmudgeonly. I'm not ashamed to admit that.
I'm perfectly happy with the original version. I have
Yeah.
no cares to watch that one.
And then we have David Prust, who said, I'm glad it was canceled. I never cared for it, and I thought it was boring.
I can see that. I actually can see that. If
I
you're
can too.
not into this kind of a genre, it can be very dull. Or if you have a particular preference for what you would like out of your shows like this, I could see that. If I didn't like this show, my first thing would be it would probably be because it's boring.
Yes, and it can be confusing. Like, how do we have Christian witchcraft still like 500 years in the future, like burner at the stake?
Yeah.
Like, we still have those moments, or the guns are all analog guns like we have now that make pew pew sounds. And then when we finally see a laser gun, it fires bullets. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I do feel like there was a bit of over reliance on the Western theme a little too much, but I think that also helped keep the budget down. That's probably, but so, and if you're not into Westerns, then it's going to feel like it's dragging half the time. And it's a lot of dialogue, it's a lot of exposition, it's not a lot of space battles, it's not a lot of meeting aliens. There's no aliens in this show.
Yeah.
So
I think
it's just following a crew around doing jobs, staying out of trouble.
Yeah, it's just the human race. We're still the only people in the galaxy that we're aware of. And we've gone as far as we can go, as far as we know at this point. So,
The edge of the galaxy, if I remember right.
Yeah, and that's where the Reavers are. They went so far out, and they stared into the darkness, and all was there was darkness, and it stared back into them, and they went wild.
Yep.
Which is creepy as fuck. I love it. It's that part is awesome. It reminds me of Heart of Darkness. But anyway, Next we've got Sean Bircher, who says, at the time I would have fought as hard as anyone to save it. These days I'd cancel it before it even aired. Why? Whedon's overall jackassery and just the whole vague Confederate state setting. That is true. This definitely is the Confederate States of America. There's really no hiding that. They get around it being called out for it being shitty by one, having the alliance be the overbearing government that hides and lies about everything, and then two, shitting on slave owners. But the independents are the ones that have slaves. That's really they don't mention the fact that it's not legal in the alliance. It's just the outer rims. And then good buddy Bruce says, whatever programming pencil neck chose to cancel Firefly should live forever in the hell of being cut to pieces. The Chinese have a lot of hells, you know. I don't know how many times Book told Mal that he's going to burn in hell if he sleeps with Saffron. But
well, he kissed her.
Yeah, it was so funny because like his head would just like pop out of like a corner randomly. Going to hell. Gonna go to hell, Captain.
There's a special level just for you.
By the way.
Well, and even Mal's like, I'm going to hell.
Yeah, I'm going to one of those bad places. And we've got Yorkus Rex, who says, as much as I loved Firefly, I'm secretly glad it never got a chance to suck. I agree with that.
I'm on board with that too.
Because again, with Joss Whedon, it would have. It probably would have.
Oh yeah.
Alchemistro says, I can never get past episode 3 because it puts me to sleep. I again, like we just talked about with David, I could see that too, but I turn on The Exorcist to fall asleep. So this actually keeps me up because I want to see what's going to happen. Let's see here. Tim Blakely says, it's time for us to do Farscape. We're probably not wrong.
I love Farscape. That's one of my absolute favorite shows. It got canceled. That's 4 seasons. But well, we'll save that for we'll see.
We've got plenty of time this year to do that too. So if you guys want it, tell us. We'll do it. We're not opposed to that.
We want to hear it.
And then Quinn Keating says, despite being a fan of Cowboy Bebop first, I really enjoyed Firefly.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
Well, this reminds me, if you anime fans out there, Outlaw Star, I swear to God, watch the first episode of that and watch the first episode of this show. There is so many similarities. It feels like it's a Xerox machine. River comes out of a case brought onto this ship in a very similar fashion, and she's opened up to be within the suitcase. Same thing out of Outlaw Star. I've said it for years. I swear Joss Whedon had to have been a fan of Outlaw Star to rip it off that much. It's more than an homage. It's a straight copy. Now, the rest of the show doesn't follow suit, so it's not like the whole show is like a ripoff or anything, but there's elements of Cowboy Bebop and Outlaw Star all over the show.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I've not seen them, but I know roughly what they're about, and I know that their fan base is fucking redonkulously huge.
Well, they tried to do a Cowboy Bebop show on Netflix, and that got canceled.
With John Cho, even.
Yep.
The man's awesome.
His talents would be better used on something else, though.
Yeah, season 2 of Exorcist.
Fuck yeah. I mean, season 3.
Was it 3? Oh.
Because we got 2 seasons of The Exorcist show.
Yeah, but he died at the end of season 2, didn't he?
Give Rick on
that.
I'm kidding.
Demons involved. No one's dead forever. Shit.
Yep.
But Quinn says, despite being a fan of Cowboy Bebop first, I really enjoyed Firefly. I love the diverse cast of characters, the memorable dialogue, the theme song, and the intriguing stories. My favorite episode is still Out of Gas, just for all the backstory. Yeah. And even though it was a cover for Gina Torres' honeymoon with Lawrence Fishburne. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. I absolutely would have fought for it because the unanswered questions, or excuse me, because of all the unanswered questions, especially regarding Shepherd Book. It had so much potential, but execs at Fox simply had no clue what to do with it, and that was the most irritating part.
Spot on.
Yep, that is it in a nutcase, and it's the sad tale of pretty much every good Fox show.
Fucking A.
And then we've got Kathy O'Brien who says, "Oh, you mean the ripoff of Blake 7?"
Ooh.
I don't know, but I like that response.
Straight fire. Somebody call the ambulance. There's been a burn.
Matthew Kyle says, I watched Outlaw Star not long before a friend enthusiastically showed me Firefly.
That's my boy.
That's right. I found them too similar and definitely preferred the former. My friend also hyped up the show more than it could probably have lived up to. That tends to happen.
Yep.
I also just think that Whedon's dialogue is kind of pompous in general. Very, I'm the smartest man in the room vibes. Yes. As the smartest man in the room, yes, he definitely comes off that way. We smell our own. He doesn't give the chance to think that anyone is going to bring something beyond or more important or more elevated than his creative thinking. You see that a lot, and I think that's why he's not so much in the MCU anymore.
Yeah, he just went over and wrecked DC, that's all.
What did he do?
The Justice League? He came over and he wrecked Justice League. He wrecked the DC.
Oh, that's right. That was after Avengers.
Yep. After Age of Ultron.
Yeah, because, I mean, the Marvel movies were good, and the Snyder version was not great. The whole movie was not good, but Whedon coming in there and hacking and slashing and treating those performers like shit, like he was King Dong, like that was not cool. He did nothing to bring anything to the film to help it. Like he cut away the better parts and made things so redonkulous that it gave the nerds their way. Like they got Snyder's cut because his was so terrible. Like when has that ever happened before?
Yeah, never.
Never. And then Barbara LeMaster says, I liked Firefly, and I thought it was somewhat similar to Cowboy Bebop. The premise of both is similar, but the execution is different. The crew of Serenity are a found family. They bonded deeply with each other and care about each other's person's welfare and well-being. The crew of Bebop are all friends, but only of convenience. They're secretive about their lives, and they function less as a family and more as a business.
Right.
That is true of Serenity. Everyone has a place. Book, of course, is the shepherd. Mal is dad. Inara is mom or big sister. Wash is brother-in-law. Zoe is sister. And Kaylee's child, little girl. And I want to say the Tams are probably the antagonists of the show more than anybody else.
Antagonist.
Well, like everything bad that happens because of Simon and River. Had they not been there, the job probably would have gone fine otherwise. Like the Alliance wouldn't have been following them as harsh. Bounty hunters wouldn't be chasing them and shit like that. But at the same time, I don't think Mal would have had it any other way. Like, even though Simon's kind of a prick, that's his crew, that's his doctor, and his wild child is his wild child. He likes River.
But Simon's also a criminal mastermind. No joke. He had the best idea for the job, though.
Oh, for
robbing the hospital.
Yes, yeah, that was good. But his ad-libbing skills on the Mud Planet were not all that great.
Super villain in training.
Yes. His T-shades are pretty cool, though. Let's see here. We've got David Weishound said, I would have canceled it and renewed the adventures of Briscoe County Jr. Yes, I would have too.
I would take that too. I'm sorry.
It is
Bruce's show had a bit more going on with it.
Well, it was a smarter show.
Well, and a lot more lighthearted. It wasn't nearly as dark and twisted at times.
Yes, there were a lot of similar themes. It was a similar type show in a roundabout way, only he was the bounty hunter. In fact, some of the props from Briscoe are in this show. I don't remember who's got it, but somebody's got Boulder's shotgun, his sawed-off. It might be Mal.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, someone carries Boulder's shotgun throughout the show.
Isn't it Gina Torres who carries the shotgun?
She might, but I think she has a sawed-off lever action rifle.
Oh, okay.
Which is also very fucking cool.
Yeah.
I just lost it. It was another 0 point. But Briscoe was the smartest thing on TV for its time. I don't know that Firefly was the smartest thing on TV at the time, and I don't think Firefly was anything new necessarily.
I don't think it was trying to even be the smartest thing on TV at the time.
No, and I guess it didn't have to. It was fun. It really was fun. And what it lacked in story, creativity, or whatever the hell else made up for it by its cast. Like, the cast put so much life into the characters that I think they came out better than what it probably was on the script.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm left asking to myself, how much of this is ad-libbed? How much is on the script? Because if you watch Nathan Fillion on, like, Slither, he ad-libs so much into that movie that it's fucking amazing. And his ad-libs stick more so than what's on the script, just like in Iron Man with RDJ. It's awesome.
That's a James Gunn movie.
Yes, I know, but still, Nathan Fillion just has that way of like bringing out more of a character than what's handed to him, I think. And I think that's one of the things that makes him great, even if it's arms fall off lad or arms fall off man. All right, and then we've got let's see who's next. Arthur Lemming, who says Firefly is ridiculously overrated. It might be, but I think in a lot of shows get overrated.
Oh yeah.
There's people like me who think that Mystery Science Theater could end wars. Like, take Timothy Leary's idea of getting wasted and watching MST, and you could end pretty much any war with that. And I think there's people that are like that with Firefly. Like, they connect with the characters, they connect with some of the ideology, although try not to, because again, the South doesn't need to rise again. It touched people. And I think that's why you got so many diehard fans.
Yeah, you could look at any show and say it's overrated. It's all a matter of perspective. I mean,
Yeah.
if a bunch more people like it and you're like the only one of like everybody that you're like, but I didn't like it. There's nothing wrong with having that perspective. It's overrated to you.
My first heart attack listening to a podcast was the Mads, Frank and Trace and Carolina Hidalgo were talking about Ghostbusters, and neither one of them particularly liked Ghostbusters. And Carolina had a heart attack on the air, and I had one listening. Like, my heart just stopped. Like, how does anyone? They didn't dislike it. Like, it just didn't grab them like it grabbed younger people at that time.
Right.
Like, it was like if Mighty Morphin Power Rangers came out, I wouldn't give two shits of a dollar, not at all. Those were after my time, and I think it was the same thing with Ghostbusters for Frank and Trace. But it scared the shit out of me. I've never heard anyone fucking say I don't really care for Ghostbusters before.
Yeah, it's all right. They're out there. They exist.
I still love them. Frank and Trace. I still love them.
We know.
I believe Frank's exact words were, people that believe Ghostbusters are true are people that I like to call and so, like, I talked to Carolina a couple weeks after that because I run their Facebook group for her, but now it's for Chris. But we were talking about the Conjuring movies, and I'm like, please don't tell Frank.
That'll do it.
And then we've got Alexander Haber, who says Firefly is an excellent show. It does have some flaws, though. It certainly could have been more diverse, as the lack of Asian representation can be a little jarring when everyone speaks Mandarin Chinese. But aside from those issues, it's an amazing show with an amazing cast. The story is compelling. The world is fascinating. It really did have the potential to be a great long-running series if it hadn't been dealt such a bad hand. Fox aired the episodes out of order, making the whole thing confusing to viewers and watching it live.
Yep.
It did not do well and was quickly canceled. When the show was released on DVD and in the correct order, that's when it became a cultural phenomenon that it is. That's when it became the cultural phenomenon that it is today. Fans spread their love for it by word of mouth. That's like MST does as well. And pretty quickly, it had a devoted fan base who does a pretty good job of giving the series a fairly satisfying conclusion. Wait, I skipped something. Devoted fan base who demanded more. Thank you. And thankfully, we were rewarded with the film Serenity, which is also excellent and does a pretty good job of giving the series a fairly satisfying conclusion while leaving the door open for future adventures, which have yet to happen outside of comics. I absolutely would have fought for Firefly. It is one of my all-time favorites. I would have loved to see a revival of the show, with the cast returning under a different showrunner, since Joss Whedon is unfortunately an extremely toxic person, and with maybe a few updates like the inclusion of Asian representation, more diverse casting as a whole, and less shaming of Inara because of her profession as a companion. She is an amazing character who deserves to be treated with more respect.
Agreed.
Yes, and Inara got respect on the show, just not the way that she should have.
Or the way it was even established that she might get.
Right. Marina wasn't given the respect that she deserves, whereas Inara got more respect. Marina, we've seen her in things like Deadpool, where she could do some of the most amazing action sequences, was not given a chance to do that throughout the entire series and at all in Serenity. That's my problem there. And the same thing with Joel. We got to see Kaylee doing some neat shit, but not amazing shit. And we know that Joel can. That's what I would have liked to have seen in a revival or extended episodes. And let's see. I know we have more.
And if you like Morena while Kevin is taking a look, I'd also recommend checking out V, the television series. It was a reboot back in a few years ago. That's not bad either. And she was also in Stargate SG-1 as well.
I did not know that.
Yep, the final 2 seasons.
And we've got Aaron 4600 who says, I saw Serenity before I saw Firefly. So in watching Firefly, a lot of references started to make sense in reverse. And Aaron said that is the number 5 of their favorite IPs of Joss. I think it's probably my first.
It's going to be my first as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't give Buffy the number 1. I wouldn't give Avengers the number 1 because, frankly, I think the original
wasn't
Avengers,
his IP.
Yeah, that to me was Jon Favreau. But yeah, I for me personally, I think Firefly would be number 1.
I know for most it'll probably be Buffy. I go Firefly. Buffy was good. However, after you got past season 4, it felt like something wasn't quite clicking with the show anymore. After that, like it clearly ran its course. But people kept tuning in, and people still wanted more. And then they did Angel, and then Joss really wanted to go off and do Firefly to do something different. So
yeah, the quest for more money. And then the last comment was Thomas Hareen, who says, regarding Firefly, what's everyone's favorite season? Thank you. That made me laugh so fucking hard this morning.
That's a great way to end it.
That was the most dickish thing I'd heard all fucking morning.
Comment of the day goes to that man.
Yes. And that is it for social media. Like, really, thank you everybody for writing in on this one. Like, everybody has an opinion on Firefly. Everyone's right and everyone's wrong in a lot of different ways. Like, it's not a bad show. It's got bad people. It's made by a bad man, but it's still a good show. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, if you can separate, the artist from the art, there's a lot to like about Firefly. If you're like in a space-based science fiction, you can turn your brain off. The plot is not overly complicated, but it's also not spoon-fed to you. It's divvied up and broken out just right, but you're tuning in for the characters. So it's constantly a good time with great actors. There was definitely some amazing talent behind this show, from the writing staff to the directors to just everybody involved. So all around, it's a quality show. You might have a problem with Joss. We totally get it. Doesn't mean we weren't going to cover this show. This is still one of the greatest crimes that Firefly got canceled. Thank you, Fox, and fuck you, Fox. But I just want to say, Kevin, if you don't have anything else, I will sign us off.
I got nothing, man. Just thank you guys for listening, and thank you, Jeff, for making us watch this one again. It was not a horrible experience at all.
Hell yeah. I totally loved it, and I look forward to watching it in maybe another 15 years. Thank you for tuning in. See you next time. Make sure you check us out on all of our social media platforms. We got Facebook, Twitter. We are at Suns and Shadows. We're also on Instagram at Suns and Shadows Cast. We are at SunsAndShadows.com. Thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you down the road.